These Jeep M715s are awesome, the pickups. But if you've dealt with them before and you're not big in nostalgia, you knew that the factory bolt pattern is a pain to get wheels for, or you're still running the split rims, you didn't want to. That was the same issue my buddy had, and the drum brakes. Just this thing did not stop well. Had way too low of gears for what he did with it and wants to be able to drive it. So, problem solved. Modern axles in the old school body, so swapped into a Sterling 10.5 out of an Excursion F250 99 to 05 generation. So the early 10.5s, I guess they all go into the 2016 era. So, but this is a 2002, so this had core spline studs. But the M715s are super wide axles. So to make up for that, it's got spacers. It's got 2-inch spacers each side, brand new rotors, brand new calipers, stripped all the brackets off the Sterling, but everything else is on it is factory from the calipers, everything else. The spring pads were actually over here for the factory Sterling. I cut them and I was able to use a cutoff wheel or a death wheel, however you want to call them, and knock them off and save them, weld them on after I got the housing centered and set that up. So it's got 373 gears. I have a flange coming in for the drive line to go to the 1330, which was what was factory drive line U-joint for the Gladiator. And then the front was a little bit more complicated. So this thing was a 36-inch spring center, which was fine. I was going to possibly redo the springs and redo the spring mounts, go to 32-inch spring center, and put a true Kingpin Dana 60 in this, low pinion from like a square body. But the ones around me, people wanted like $2,500 and they needed rebuilt. I'm not going to pay that much. I'm not going to have my buddy pay that much. He's buying all the parts for this and paying for labor because it's a business thing. But the big issue for that is just people wanted way too much money, and I would have to do a bunch of work to get the springs to work. And so we talked about it. I was like, I can build a front axle. So I was either going to sleeve and use these same C's and knuckles on the ball closed knuckle 60 that was in this and just cut it and make a bastard front end. And then time permits, I looked at everything, is like that was going to be a lot of work. So instead of doing that, we took a different 60. So this is a ball joint 60 from a pre-Super Duty. So this is 92 or 93 to 96 Ford F350 front end. Was a Dana 60. But with this one, it looks a little bit different. This has got 99 to 04 Super Duty leaf sprung 60 outers on it. So the ball joint spacing is the same, and you can put their Super Duty leaf sprung 60 parts on this and use the old school center. But with doing this, gets me unit bearings, which is what I wanted, matches the bolt pattern I have on the rear axle, the slip-on rotors, and the big brakes from the Super Duty. So this is all Super Duty brakes on this. This is getting a GM Safari Van Hydro Boost because I like running Hydro Boost. All you have to do is plumb them. And what that does is you get hydraulic fluid from your power steering pump, goes to the Hydro Boost. There's a return line there, and then the second line goes down to the steering gear. So you still have power steering like normal, but you get a hydraulic apply and a hydraulic assist instead of a vacuum assist like a lot of companies are running. A lot of cars are running. It's perfectly fine. So this is the orientation. Like I said, it's perfectly fine. My power steering pump's down there underneath the exhaust. Hydraulic line comes in, goes in one side, puts power through that. There is a return line that goes back to the pump, and the other pressure line goes down to the steering gear, runs it like it normally does, and then there's a return line off the steering gear back into the pump. And I need to switch it out on this because it needs a cooler because it's running a little hot, especially with everything else underneath the hood because this thing's crazy as it is. So Hydro Boost brakes. I have an engine and core master cylinder for this that is disc. Have a disc proportioning valve so it doesn't lock up the rears, and they're all balanced. If it needs more, I will put an adjustable proportioning valve for the rear so they don't lock up, but it should be pretty good. And the other thing with using a factory disc brake Sterling rear axle is it's got the factory parking brakes in them. So I can run the parking brake inside the cab because it's got the old school pull handle. So, yeah. Lots of extra parts, lots of new stuff going in. Axle's welded. I just need to do front shock mounts. And then this is a Barnes four-wheel drive Y-Link for GM 1-ton tie rod ends. And it's great. I've used a lot of their stuff before. Comes out super clean. The bars need fully sanded, but they were just stock material I had sitting outside. New weld bungs, new tie rods. And then I'm going to have custom inner shafts from Dutchman made. This uses the stock 9904 studs, stub shafts. And everything clears. Set the pinion angle to match what it was that came out. Set it with like 6 degrees of caster so it drives well. The front driveline's ready to bolt back up. Yes, it has spacers on the front. He got stock Super Duty wheels, so they are very tight, and I wanted to keep his 35s out of the leaf springs. And for what he's going to do with this thing, it's not a highway rig, it's a camping rig. So I'll have him check these after the first couple trips, make sure everything's tight. These do have Loctite in them to keep them from coming loose. Not red, it is blue, so they actually can come off without having to torch everything. And so they have conical seat lug nuts in the inside, and then it have flat back lug nuts to hold, and these are hub-centric wheel spacers, so it lines the wheel properly. So I have a few more things to do, and I can get this thing running. It runs and ran before. Now I'm going to get it to drive and make it so it doesn't want to blow up the motor trying to do anything over 50 miles an hour. So Jeep M715, it's got a 401 AMC motor, T98 MP200, so it's a really cool transfer case. But now, functional Dana 60 front axle that you can actually steer because the closed knuckles do not have any turning, that's for sure. So, yeah, so custom axles in a Jeep M715. It's a lot of work, but this thing's going to be a killer driver when it's done.